So Kadi here. Today we are reviewing our Lightning Strike build from earlier in the season and matching it up with our Ascendancies in Phrecia. And it looks like Blind Prophet is the winner. Blind Prophet brings a lot to the table. Directionless gives us return proj without losing a ring slot or a skill link. Sightless gives us 12% base critical strike chance with a very minor penalty to accuracy. Careless gives us 2 additional projectiles, which is always good for Lightning Strike. And Shapeless gives us Elusive at a massive amount of effectiveness all of the time. We're going to constantly be elusive, and removing itself at 50% effect means on average we're going to gain 75% of the effectiveness of elusiveness, or approximately 12.5% chance to, what is it, 11.5, something like that. And then 22% movement speed. Very, very, very strong Ascendancy. Let's take a look at our POB and see what it looks like. Now, you can always go back to the old videos if you want to see the play on it. Lightning Strike play hasn't changed since Lightning Strike came out, so we won't include any of that until the season gets going. But we will talk about a few things. First things first. We are looking at 4 different budgets here. Early budget starts off anytime, really. I've got it set up on a level 88 tree. Obviously, if you're below level 88, you can pull Rage off. If you're less than that, you can pull off Bloodless here. If you're less than that, you can pull off Steadfast. And you can just trim the tree down all the way to here. Get you down to level 71. You can trim off your sword damage over here. And you can adjust the tree as necessary to whatever level you're currently at. But we're setting this up as just getting an idea of what you can be at on early budget at level 88. For items, we're using Rebuke of the Vaal, Rare Shield, Helm, Chest, Gloves. All of these are just generic stats on them. The shield, we do want to have a lot of block on it. We do need accuracy, so we'll be getting accuracy on items. We're running a Dark Ray Vectors, Carnage Heart, a Cheap Taming, Amethyst Ring, Vanguard Belt, Flasks, and ideally a Lethal Pride, which would be the most expensive part of this whole build right here. We're looking for Rage on hit and Intimidate on the Lethal Pride. Very, very common rolls on this part of the tree. There's a ton of them that fit the bill here. On our Blind Prophet, we are again running Directionless, Sightless, Careless, and Shapeless. If you have not completed your Uber Ascendancy, then I would drop Shapeless and run Directionless, Sightless, and Careless. For our skills, we are running Vaal Lightning Strike. We've got it set up at a 6 link. If you don't have 6 links, you can drop off increased critical strike damage, or you can drop off Immolate all the way down to a 4 link here. We're running Determination and Grace for our auras. We're running Precision with Arrogance. We're running Sniper's Mark with Mark on hit, Life Tap, and Blood Rage. We're running Whirling Blades with faster attacks, Life Tap. And we are running Vaal Haste, Vaal Smite with more duration and Life Tap here. These are our cooldowns so that we can do increased damage versus bosses along with Vaal Lightning Strike itself. Our primary attack is going to be doing about 6.2 million DPS and Lightning Strike damage. And then during cooldowns with Vaal Lightning Strike up, we're going to be doing about 13 million DPS in our early budget build. Very incredibly good DPS. I do want to point out one thing. We are using a custom modifier on the build. This is the return projectile math for the average amount of damage increase that return projectiles is giving us. Lightning Strike, because of the way it works, has a tremendous amount of benefit from return projectiles, more so than most other skills in the game. And then in notes here, you can see we talk about the math of how it works, why it works, and I've also got videos on how to use Lightning Strike. Lightning Strike is a skill where you don't want to be standing in melee with a target. You're going to want to be standing just outside of melee so that you can take advantage of the non-Vaal strikes. You are going to want to get non-Vaal strikes on your gauntlets here because we are not taking it on the tree over here. Early on, if you're leveling and you don't have access to Eldritch currency yet, you can take multi-shot and take non-Vaal strikes right here. But for most characters, getting a few Eldritch Ichors and spamming your gloves for non-Vaal strikes is going to be more than sufficient. So make sure that you do have a Steering Exarch on here, and you add your non-Vaal strike implicit on here. The additional projectiles will take care of our needs of having a lot of non-ball strikes because the proj will be all over the screen, but you will want at least one instance of it on your character to maximize lightning strike. Now we'll move over to mid-budget. Mid-budget is still a Rebuke of the Vaal, a little bit better rares, a Ralakesh, a Yoke, and an Arn's Anguish here. These are 3 important pieces of gear that all go together with an interrogation. This is kind of your next big upgrade, is to get Ralakesh Yoke, Arn's Anguish, and Interrogation. We also pick up an Impossible Escape down here so that we can take multi-shot and piercing shots. This just assists with clear, but it is not necessary. You do need to get these items, though, for this big jump. Huge jump in our damage with access to running Ralakesh and Arns, and a huge jump in our damage by being able to access Yoke of Suffering and Interrogation. So I would first get either a Yoke of Suffering and Interrogation or a Ralakesh and Arns. Both of those items kind of work synergistically together. Our tree is almost identical. We clipped off this part of the tree and went more heavy into nodes over here, especially defensive nodes on the tree. Vaal Lightning Strike, very, very similar here. And for Fortify, we are going to start relying on our influenced gear. Gain access to Fortify on hit. And you're going to want to roll this with a greater if possible. That is very, very important. For the Searing Exarch implicit, probably the most important thing here is just going to strike multiplier for attack damage. And you just want to get that on your armor piece right there. So this will give you access to your Fortified because we did remove the Fortify from the tree. Upper mid-budget items almost the same as the lower mid-budget, just much better sword, much better shield, much better armor, much better gauntlets. On our armor here, we went a little bit more defensive for some more resistances. But if you don't want to do that, you can still come in here and your crit multi for attack damage instead of the plus 1% to all res. Tremendous amount of damage at this part of the build. The majority of that coming from huge upgrades in our sword and our defense, our offenses in the shield here. So tremendous amount of upgrades in these 2 items here, as well as our gloves, which are going to bring in some more damage as well. We are spell suppression capped in mid-budget and higher, and we are ailment immune on the upper mid-budget, because in the upper mid-budget, we're ailment immune in the high budget. If you want to be ailment immune in the upper mid-budget, it is doable. You're just going to have to get an ancestral vision and level a little bit more because you need another dual socket, and that is going to come in the way of this jewel socket down here. On our high budget, we have our ancestral vision included because we are running 2 cluster jewels here, so it makes it easier on the high budget. But on the upper mid budget, you're going to have to stretch with levels and points to get a jewel socket down here with ancestral vision, and then swap this over to ailment so that you can get your ailment immunity through ancestral vision. And then finally, of course, our high budget is going to have the best sword, the best shield, the best everything. And this is running big tamings. This is running Arn's Anguish with double corruption. This is a very, very, very spendy build to get put together. Middle of the league, you're probably looking usually somewhere around 200 to 250 divs worth of cost, as long as you can sufficiently craft the craftable pieces of gear. But this just does put you somewhere around 200 million DPS versus bossing, around 100 million DPS just for general clear, and then effectively infinite hit point pool, 30k max hit, massive Ellie hits, massive chaos hits, very, very tanky, very smooth, very fun build to play. We are running Flesh and Stone. We have a Mortal Call for a defense. We don't have a Mortal Call on in our defenses here. That is an on-use button as you need it. Vaal Lightning Strike gets Awaken Multi-Strike, Awaken Elemental Damage with attacks, Awaken added lightning damage. We are running Tempest Shield with Enlightened Skitterbots and Grace, Precision with Arrogance, Molten Shell We are not running Molten Shell at all anymore. I've opted for Immortal Call as a better button for us to use than Molten Shell, as long as you are keeping your endurance charges active. And so right here we do need Enduring Cry, so that we have our endurance charges active on bosses. On trash, we're going to on a kill and on block, which will happen all the time. And then Sniper's Mark on hit, Blood Rage right here, and then Whirling Blades along with our Vaal Smite, Vaal Haste, more duration combo for additional boss DPS. Our tree, relatively unchanged, not a whole lot of things. Mostly it's just adding in this second cluster jewel down here, which gives us access to more jewel sockets. Now, I will go back to the upper mid-budget. I did misspeak a little bit. I pulled Ancestral Vision off just to fit this Prismatic Jewel in the build guide. Obviously, we won't need a Prismatic Jewel for skills in the build guide. You can slot in Ancestral Vision right here instead of the Crimson Jewel slash Prismatic Jewel that we've slotted in right here, if you do want to get access to your ailment immunity. Now, I've got several videos on this build for this season, so if you want more information, please take time to look at those, including a video on how to play Lightning Strike, because it is a little bit of a different melee range slash weird skill, but it's super fun, very engaging, and is wonderful for early league clear and scaling. If you have any questions over anything, leave a comment down below or come by Twitch. I'm happy to answer questions. It's one of my favorite things to do as a streamer anyway. So come by, ask questions, and we're happy to get you squared away. Thank y'all very much for watching. Have a wonderful day. Peace.